So let's talk about how the adultification of young Black children leads to misdiagnoses and later in life diagnoses for things like autism spectrum disorder. My name is Dr. Melis. I have my PhD in neuroscience and behavior, and I'm really passionate about this topic. So autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects how someone processes the world. It affects things like your sensory information, your social communication and behavior. And importantly, it's not a disease, it's just a different way that the brain is wired. Therefore, it looks different on every single person, especially people who have different racial and cultural backgrounds. But like most of our science, everything that we know about how to identify autism was based on studies on exclusively white boys. So all of the diagnostic criteria, the checklist, etc., were built around one small demographic, and anybody who is not part of that demographic can be missed in very subtle ways. What I find so concerning is that young Black children are often getting diagnosed with autism 1.5 to 2 years later than their white peers. And in that time, they are getting way different diagnoses for like conduct disorder or intellectual disability or personality disorders, right? And it's not lost on me that a lot of these labels are often received much harsher by our society. We see that as being like a bad kid instead of someone who's expressing themselves and interpreting the world in a very different way. For young Black girls, this is especially important because they are facing this sort of compounding effect. They are neither white nor boy, and so they are often trying to mask and fit in with society by copying other people. And this social mimicry can kind of hide the trait of autism, which can further delay a diagnosis or recognition. Although this can happen to all Black children, Black girls have been studied uniquely for this thing called adultification, which is that young Black girls are often seen as less in need of protection than their white peers, less in need of support, strong and capable, and much more mature for their age. Because of the intersection between racism and misogyny, they are seen as less innocent, which means that their difficulties are much more likely to be perceived as like emotional, conduct related, etc., instead of a neurodevelopmental condition. And young Black girls are more often to get borderline personality diagnoses or oppositional defiant disorders and conduct disorders. And it's so important to be talking about this because later in life diagnoses mean a couple things. It means getting the wrong treatment for many years. It means kids feeling like something is inherently wrong with me when in fact their brain just works a little bit differently and the society is failing them. It means going years at school without any sort of accommodations or support, especially from teachers who are more likely to see them through a very harsh lens compared to their white peers. Let me know if you learned something new below.